Hey everyone, this is Christabella from Nerdy Geek Talk, source for all your nerdy geeky needs, here with episode 4 of Anime Overdrive. Joining me today we have Russell. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Alright, and we have Alyssa. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good. Just real quick before we get started, I want to mention this will probably be the group from now on for Anime Overdrive for the time being is me, Alyssa, and Russell. So yeah. With that out of the way, we're going to talk about today part 2 of Jojo. Battle Tendency. Wow. Okay. I almost called it Phantom Blood. My brain was like, no, that's not right. Right. Yeah. So.
All good.
Battle Tendency. Yes, the last part before the introduction of stands, which changed Jojo forever. So.
I miss punching with the power of the sun, though.
Yeah.
As someone who is just coming into the JoJo series with no knowledge, I have no idea what you guys just said, but yes, I'm not in agreement. Yes, it was a tragedy.
He's talking about Hamon.
Yes. I do know about. Yeah, no.
You already know Hamon is.
Fans. I'm just like, what's that?
You'll find out.
The magical Sunny D ability. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll find out in the next episode because in honor of part 5 airing very, very shortly in October, some point. Does someone have the date?
October. When in October you said?
I was asking.
It's the 10th, I think.
10th, in honor of the airing of part 5 anime on October 10th. We're going to be doing.
Wait, it's
the next.
10th or the 6th? Hang on, let me check.
Okay. Please stand by. But
sorry.
We're doing parts 3. We'll be doing parts 3 and 4 of JoJo as our next couple episodes. Leading into that.
It premieres on the 5th in Japan, so probably the 6th in the US.
Right, so we'll have to make sure we do part 3 next week, everyone.
Yeah.
Alyssa, do you think you can get most of part 3 read or watched?
By the 10th?
By next week?
By next week. Yeah, I probably can be able to. I can.
Okay.
Do that.
And if not, Russell, can you give her a key points thing or something?
A key points of part 3?
Part 3, and then possibly part 4, because part 4 will be the next week, and that's going to be a lot to digest in 2 weeks, I concede.
Yeah, I could probably break down a key point thing.
Alright, thanks. Okay. But anyway, moving on, because we're not talking about those today, we're talking about part 2, Battle Tendency, which has many people say their favorite JoJo. I'm not giving my opinions just for the sake of avoiding controversy. You too, feel free to. I don't care. I will say I am very entertained by this JoJo, Joseph Joestar, the grandson of Jonathan Joestar.
Young Joseph, of course, we're talking about.
Of course, right, yes.
We'll talk old Joseph later.
Oh, won't we? Yes. So let's real quick, just everyone, I guess, we'll just talk about him a little bit.
Sure.
Your thoughts and opinions on him as a character, just young Joseph.
Yes. So I think that so I think a lot of where I'm coming from comes through comparing this to Phantom Blood.
That's fair.
I think I really like how he feels a lot more like a character to me than someone like, say, Jonathan. Jonathan to me felt more like a very much an archetype kind of person, He was very much a gentleman. He didn't really have too many interesting flaws, I guess. Whereas Joseph is just
oh boy.
He's just he's rough. He's very rude and unscrupulous. He's I envision him if he was in a pantheon, he definitely would be the trickster god.
Oh God, yeah, he was.
Oh yeah,
If the JoJo were to be a pantheon, he would be the trickster god.
Oh, for sure, hands down.
So and trickster characters are always, they're kind of a soft spot for me. I really like a lot of tales that involve tricksters and characters that are sort of like trickster gods or tricksters are really fun because, you know, they goof around and they get into trouble a lot.
They
They're
do.
always being tricky. So I think I definitely like Jojo a lot more than I liked, Jonathan. I think he is really well written in terms of his lines, and it's really funny that how he always has something to say, even when he doesn't know what's going on.
Oh yeah.
And I especially do like it how they kind of establish that like he spends a lot of mileage, trying to be perceived as someone who knows what everyone's thinking and is always looking one step ahead. But there are a lot of times when he actually has no idea what he's doing. He's just making it up as he goes. So
Oh yeah.
I really like
God.
that sort of tension between how people are like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing, and like him internally be like, I have no idea what's going on.
Really Smokey.
And he has that very overdone sense of saying it too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Very over the top.
Yeah. So Russell, what are your thoughts on young Joseph?
Oh, I love young Joseph. He is maybe my favorite JoJo that I know of, for whatever I've done. He's goofy, he's wacky, he will pull anything out of his rear to do what he needs, or he'll just run away.
Yes.
Tactical retreats.
The Joestar family secret technique.
Get the heck out of here.
Run like hell.
No, Joseph's he's a lot of fun, and down to from that weird quirk where he just knows what everyone is going to say in the next moment, to just, I know how I can fight. I'm going to put 2 balls on string and throw them at people. But don't worry, it's filled with solar power. It's just
solar powered balls.
That's
so that's
no, I love Joseph. He's just fun.
He is.
Because I like Jonathan. I do. He's a little stereotypical, but I like him.
Yeah.
But he's so milquetoast at times.
Yeah.
And Joseph is just like Toriyama going, what if I wrote a character? Not Toriyama.
Toriyama!
I'm losing my mind. I've been thinking about Dragon Ball
Akira
too much
Toriyama
lately. I've been thinking of Dragon Ball too much. I'm sorry. It's Araki. It's him going, what if I actually wrote a character?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That's not Dio.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Toriyama. This was originally going to be the beginning of Dragon Ball month, but anyway, that's coming eventually. Don't worry. We're doing a lot. We're going to be doing a big old thing for that. But anyway, did I talk about my thoughts on him at all, or did I turn it to you guys?
I think you threw it to us.
Okay, so I'll just mention briefly. I really enjoyed him. He was very, very funny. I enjoyed like the different, just all the screwiness of the character, but at the same time, like he could also get serious when he had to. I guess, kinda.
Yeah, he could.
Yeah. How he matures as a character too throughout. Like going from who he was in the beginning in New York, and then at the very end, he's definitely has matured, but he's still himself at heart.
Right.
I like that.
Oh yeah. I like the part also where he can't be on a plane without it crashing.
And that carries over so much. Yes, that's just great. Yeah.
There's a reason he travels by boat later.
Yeah. On a boat. Anyway, so I guess we've all given our opinions on this part's JoJo. So let's move on to a general. Do we want to do plot synopsis first, or our thoughts on it as a whole first?
I'm good with either.
Yeah, same.
But
I mean,
I need someone to pick.
You be the tiebreaker.
Well, no. How about actually, like, why don't we do a plot summary first? And
Okay.
Maybe we can like summarize. We can end off with our overall thoughts.
Bingo. There we go. All right. So I guess we'll start off. Briefly mention this takes place 50 years. Sorry, after the end of Phantom Blood, in the year 1939.
Yep.
If you want to know about Phantom Blood, you can listen to the last episode. But
yep.
I believe it starts off with Speedwagon an much older Speedwagon, and Straight's he's written Straight So, but that's just due to localization stuff. So we'll be referring to him henceforth as Straits.
Yes.
They have
Dyer and Straits.
yes.
Ah.
So we blah, blah, God, that I lost my train. Crap.
It's okay.
Of the train of tongue.
Yes, that. So it opens with them in South America. There had been an archaeological discovery of a cave full of stone masks, like the kind that Dio used to become a vampire back in part 1.
Yes.
And they discover also a dude made of stone in a pillar, a man of the column, if you will. That doesn't sound.
A pillar man.
Yeah, that
maybe
you know what?
even.
That's even better. Pillar man. Pillarman. There we go. A pillarman.
Yeah.
So.
Carlos Santana.
Yeah. Good ol'. I know who that is totally. So, I guess Straits decides he wants to become a vampire. So he uses one of the stone masks and kills a bunch of people. And for a little while, we actually think Speedwagon is dead.
Yes.
So now we cut ahead to New York City, where we are introduced to our protagonist, Joseph Joestar.
Yep.
And if someone wants to take over the storyline from here, talking about it.
Sure. Do you want to do Russell, or do you want me to?
I think I'll go.
Okay, go for it.
So we first meet Joseph through the means of another character named Smokey Brown, who has just pickpocketed someone and is currently being beat up by the police because it's the 1930s and
he is African American.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Joseph kind of walks a corner wearing a coat I would really like to own.
Same.
And says, yo, could you not, in a way?
Yeah, pretty much.
And the police are about to attack him. We're talking crooked officers, of course.
One of them wipes a booger on him, or tries to.
Oh yeah, that is true. God.
Booger cop.
So Joseph responds by using his magical Haman powers to pull out a bottle of Coca-Cola and shoot the cap at a guy, basically crippling his fingers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is, oh god.
Yep. Improvised weaponry. Woo.
I think that's Joseph as a character, really.
Yep.
Yeah, but it goes from that, and they get out of the situation. They're walking around having fun. You meet, God, I'm trying to remember her name. It's Irina, his grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And they're out to eat, and you suddenly realize Straits is there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a vampire man now.
Yep.
And he's attacking them.
Yep.
So Joseph does the only thing that he can possibly do.
The only sane and sensible decision.
Pull a Tommy gun out of thin air and shoot up a restaurant.
It's okay. Full disclosure, to me, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the anime because it's just so ridiculous. Like, where did the Tommy gun come from? Why does he think this is the best situation?
I told you his code is that awesome.
And not only that, not only the Tommy gun, somehow he has grenades on him too.
Yeah, just casually,
Joseph's a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And a part of me is just like, did he just part of me just wants to believe that he just was clenching that Tommy gun between his butt cheeks the whole time.
Oh my.
Just really exercising his glutes.
See, Joseph's actually the first Green Lantern. He has a pocket dimension he stores things in.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Naturally.
But as you go, they fight. As we go, they fight through the streets, ending up, if I remember correctly, on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And through sheer nonsense, Joseph beats him, and he is told, as Straits is about to, I think he falls off, doesn't he?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
That there's more masks in Mexico. He should go to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes to
Flash,
Mexico.
A minute, and then he goes to Mexico to discover what's going on because he's also been told Speedwagon is missing and he wants to save him.
Yes.
Yes.
And who does he find in Mexico but Nazis?
Of course.
Of course.
Damn,
Yes.
damn Mexican Nazis.
Good old Nazis.
Yeah, so because this anime takes place in 39, World War II is going on, and the Nazis are here. And I
Yeah.
like how the anime goes basically right up to the line, you know, with the Nazi stuff. Like, they refer to them as German soldiers, they talk about the Nazis' plans to, you know, take over Europe, and their uniforms are Nazi uniforms, but they never call them Nazis. You don't see any swastikas. Like, it's almost like Japan's just like not wanting to acknowledge that they're Nazis, but I'm just like, come on.
Well,
I know who these guys are.
And then, of course, you have Stroheim, who is there and currently in charge of everything.
Oh
Yes.
my God, Stroheim. But before we mention Stroheim, we should
German-
mention just how Joseph gets into the base.
Cyborg Nazi Guile. We should.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. There was something. They are. Oh, I remember. They are there because if you know anything, if you've ever watched Indiana Jones, you know that stereotypically Nazis tend to have a penchant for finding supernatural ways to win wars,
Yes.
all of which have never panned out historically speaking. But it was a
Yeah.
thing. Good old Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
So
that,
they are. Well, we found this Pillar Man. They rescued Speedwagon at a point. They found him. They're keeping him captive, and they're like, "Oh, look at all these masks and this man in a pillar. I want to science this and figure out how it works."
yes.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Joseph, knowing that he has to break in and get Speedwagon, decides, "I'm going to put on the most Miss Taquita Banana dress he could ever find. Just Chiquita,
Yes.
put on lipstick. Try to hit on these soldiers, and since he's a Joestar, he's this large, hulking man.
he's
drag.
this mountain of muscle in the shape of a
Yep.
man.
Even his muscles have muscles.
He even has muscles on his eyeballs.
His lies have muscles. They of course see right through him and go, "What the heck is this?" So he beats them up and steals one of their uniforms. Sneaks in.
I wish, I know we won't be able to, but if for the YouTube version, if we could just get a picture of Tequila Joseph on the screen right now, so you could see the ridiculousness of it.
You don't want to
Yeah.
get one of the you don't want to get one of the Opie mouse pads?
Oh my God, I forgot those are a thing. Anyway, if that's not on the screen, I implore you to Google Tequila Joseph. Probably have safe search on.
Oh, it's
Yes.
the best.
Yes, do.
Unless
Please do that.
yeah. But
I'm
anyway,
going to turn plot summary point over to Alyssa now.
I was just
Oh,
about to
boy.
suggest you do that.
All right, so I might make some mistakes, so correct me if I remember things incorrectly. But
All right.
yeah, so basically he breaks in to the well, it cuts back to the bunker where the footmen are, and then the Nazis basically sacrifice a bunch of people to the pillar, and then it like sucks up the blood, and then the blood starts coming out, and they're like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And then it turns out that the pillar guy comes to life.
Oh
And
yeah.
he is a big dude. At first, like, Strongheim's convinced that this guy's an idiot for some reason. He's like, "Oh,
It's because
look
he
at him, he's-"
didn't seem to understand speech, if I remember.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah. And it seems to imply that, like, he kind of learns how to talk by, like, sort of, like, picking things up. I kind of thought about it sort of like Frankenstein-ish, kind of, in the sense that, like, Frankenstein also kind of has to learn how to talk, but on fast mode, I guess. Like he basically just, like, by listening to them learns how to speak, and then he's able to pick apart a gun, and they're like, "Oh my God, he can do it!" And you know, it's sort of implied that he's definitely old, probably like even older than most other civilizations on the planet. And he starts, you know, well, I forget if Joseph comes in at this point. I think he does. And then he's like, "What's going on?" And then the pillar guy, he crumples his body. We learn that he can like squash himself down and fit into a vent.
Yeah.
Because he basically, like, escapes. And they're all like, "Where is he going?" And then he...
Boneless bad guy.
Yeah, and then basically he, like, comes out of the vent and starts attacking people. Also, his name is Santana, after the guitarist.
Carlos
Yeah.
Santana, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Carlos Santana. And he, although the dub does not make that very, or I'm sorry, the sub does not make that very clear. They call him San Viento.
That's what he is in the English adapted manga too, which is
Yeah, so
what I called him for a
it's
long time.
it's you really don't, you kind of have to listen to what they're saying in order to get that reference.
Yeah.
Like you really have to listen to like the actual like Japanese in order to be like, oh, it's Santana. Because I didn't get that. I did not realize that was the reference.
Yeah,
But
the localization of subtitles gets worse as you go further on in JoJo.
great.
In part 3, you have a character named Vanilla Ice, who they call was it Cool Ice?
Yeah, it's Cool Ice.
Oh, that's upsetting.
And part 4, you have Crazy Diamond, who they call Shining Diamond.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they change a lot of stuff around for no real reason, honestly.
And that actually doesn't really make much sense to me because most of those artists are all like American people, things Americans would know, you know? Like, I know who AC/DC is, I know who Santana is. Like, I don't listen to a lot of Santana stuff, but I know who he is. Same thing with Vanilla Ice. Like,
I mean, the thought is that if they see that, they'll know that their names are being used and that they will try to attempt to sue, but the media is so old at this point. There's no reason to.
Yeah, okay. I didn't realize that was the point. I didn't think about that. But yeah, that's a good point that you're mentioning that.
I'm going to give
anyway.
one last example of this before Alyssa continues of the pitiful, or whatever you want to use, localization.
Not great.
Dirty deeds done dirt cheap is turned into filthy acts at a reasonable price. Anyway.
Was that the actual one? I forget.
I believe so, yes.
Oh my god.
Oh, right. Bad Company is called Worse Company.
Anyway, let's let Alyssa continue now. We could go on all day just about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could.
So basically, the Pillar Man's there, and there's a fight. You know, Joseph uses some of his hamon, and they also the Nazis is established the Nazis have UV rays, and that the UV rays are like light is a weakness of the Pillar Men. Kind of like the same thing with Dio.
Vampires, yeah.
Yeah, because vampires.
And they
burn in the sunlight.
As we will learn, the Pillar Men, one in specific, is who created the stone masks, which in turn created the vampires. Essentially, stone mask vampires are like demi-Pillar Men, in a way.
Yeah, pretty much.
And apparently delicious.
Yes.
Yes.
So, eventually, I'm not going to go into the details of the exact nature of the fight. But basically, it ends with Jojo opening the doors to the bunker because he's trying to get like the
sun.
Santana to be out in the sun, and then Stronheim gets his leg cut off, and then so he crawls into his body.
Yeah.
It's established that he can do that too, of course.
Previously been established, yes.
He blows himself up to try and kill Santana.
Yes.
Which, you know, and then I think does Joseph finish him off? Because I don't think the explosion killed Santana.
Doesn't he escape from the well and then like turns, or something, and then turns to stone?
Yeah. Oh yes, you're right.
Yeah, he tricks him into jumping into the well and then moves to the side so the sun can splash him.
Right.
Yep.
Which, you know, and now Santana is turned to stone and turned over to the Speedwagon Foundation. Just briefly, I would like to make mention how we had a perfect setup for the Pillar Man, for at least a Pillar Man to return in a later part, and we never got it.
Yep.
Damn you, Araki, and your forgetfulness.
You know, maybe he should just invest in like notes. You know, just like have some little notes for himself.
Well, it doesn't actually very much matter anymore, but
we'll
explain that. We'll explain why afterwards.
The part's been gone.
Yeah.
For quite a while.
No, I know. This came out in originally came out in the 80s, 90s, something along those lines.
Late 80s, early 90s for this part, I think.
Yeah, okay. Late 80s.
Yeah. So
ladies.
Anyway,
you did there.
So okay, so this is where I'm starting to forget exactly what happens or how this happens. Because now I know the next major plot point is that
they go to Italy,
they
and
go to Italy.
and
I
there's
forget the justification for why. I think it's because they found more Pillarmen. Was
yes,
that it? Okay. I thought that was all it was, but
yes, it was, and that's when we are introduced to Caesar Zeppeli,
yay!
the grandson of William Zeppeli from Part 1, and
Yep.
Super handsome orphan boy.
Who is also kind of a jerk.
Yes, he's kind of so. They meet at a restaurant. Like Caesar's, hitting on some woman, and like
As you do.
Joseph tries what's the Italian dish again? Spaghetti. It's the black spaghetti with ink.
So
it was
with ink.
Spaghetti al Negro, I think.
I think, yeah, something like that.
Negro. I'm sure something like that.
Yeah,
so basically he like tries to fight Caesar because he thinks Caesar's like a show off or whatever, and he's like, all right, and so
he's trying to like sabotage him because he doesn't realize who Caesar is at first. So he just sees this guy being in like an over the top chauvinistic jerkwad or something, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna ruin his day, and then he sees that Caesar also uses the hormone.
Yep.
And then, yeah.
And then they start out it starts out as a pretty big rivalry, and I think they've had a rivalry for most of it until at least until they visit Lisa, and they sort of
it was a rivalry that eventually became a sort of a more friendly rivalry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they ever lost their rivalry, but it sort of got better, or they respected each other a lot more towards the end, but that's how I would put it. He meets up with Caesar, and they go to check out the stonemen.
The Pillarmen.
We meet, the Pillarmen.
Before they get there, the Pillarmen actually awaken before they get there.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And that's when we get in my opinion, the best track in all of Jojo.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish we could play it here. Just due to editing and copyright reasons, we cannot. But you can find it on YouTube. Just look up Pillarmen Awaken theme. It is.
Oh, that's such a great theme.
It really is like just.
Mm-hmm.
So you get Wamu is the one that wakes up.
Yes.
I don't quite remember why. Did he just like wake up, or did he like get blood on him that woke him up? I don't remember. But.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But either way, he immediately like just daisy chains a bunch of Nazis together, like fuses their hands together, and just like drinks them all like as one like fleshy, silly straw.
Yep. Gotta say.
Full of nutrients.
Oh yeah, and then he like puts his fingers or something on the others and like gives them some of the blood, and then they wake up.
And then they, Caesar and is Speedwagon with them when
yes.
Yes, okay, so I thought.
And
so Speedwagon, Caesar,
and a random Nazi named Mark, I think.
And a random Nazi named Mark, who he's getting engaged, and it's so sweet, I guess.
And he's also 2 days from retirement.
yeah.
Always 1 or 2 days from.
Or at least he may as well be, because he gets a half off. He gets the half off sale.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, they meet up with Pillarmen. Mark dies.
Oh yeah.
His death is sort of like supposed to be the call to action moment, I suppose. Like in the plot, the moment when the Pillarmen fight becomes like personal, I guess. Plot analysis. I don't know.
Sure.
Anyway,
yes.
So Caesar and I think is this when we learn about Caesar's bubble thing, or is that earlier? I forgot to mention that. I think that's pretty important.
Oh yeah, Caesar is a bubble blower.
Yes, like apparently Caesar has like bubble on his gloves or something, and he can like bubble up and like send bubbles down.
Bubbles!
Time to lather them to death.
I will be okay. Like, to me, just in my opinion, I don't ever think Like, I'm not sitting here thinking, wow, Bubbles, that's so cool. I'm just thinking like, wow, Caesar, you're such a dork. Like, that's my immediate thought.
Bubble buddy!
It's hard to, in my opinion, it's hard to see Bubbles, like, threatening in any way. Like, especially soap bubbles, like...
Have you ever gotten a soap bubble in your eye, Alyssa? Trust me, that hurts. Alright?
I mean, I don't doubt that you can weaponize them. I'm just saying that I don't know if there's any cool factor to using bubbles. It has a very kid-like, dorky aesthetic to me.
But it's spherical.
It's spherical! I can't do that voice.
But so basically, both of them they try to beat the Pillar Men. I think which one is it that is it both AC/DC and WAMU like are fighting them?
Yeah, and Cars.
I think Cars kind of is like,
we should introduce them.
I'm too good for them or something.
There are 3 Pillar Men. There's WAMU. There's AC/DC, who his name is actually spelled out ESIDESI. In some translations.
AC/DC.
And then you have Cars, which is spelled with a K.
Yes. And basically what ends up happening is Joseph is like about to die, but he's like, wait, I don't want to die yet. Please spare me, or something along those lines. And he's like, if I'll get really, I'm not very good with Hammond yet, but if I train stronger, I'll be a really good opponent for you, and I'll challenge you or whatever. And then Wama's like a traditional warrior or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, all right, sure, but
Just
the caveat is that I'm going to put a ring around your heart that will melt in a month, and it will kill you instantly.
And that's the story of how Joseph got his 2 beefy Aztec husbands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then AC/DC does that as well. He puts a ring around his trachea, which that's great.
That's
And we wouldn't.
And in this,
I wouldn't be making the joke if they didn't explicitly call them wedding rings. Like, seriously.
Oh yeah.
They call them the wedding rings of death or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
much.
Yeah.
Yep. So now that Joseph is in a polygamous. No.
He's in a polygamous
It's
marriage.
polyamory.
Yeah, they're in They're not.
A polyamorous marriage. He's in a polyamorous.
A polyfightery relationship.
Here we go.
Now that's been established. We now learn, because Cars is there, and he mentions the red stone of Aja. I think that's
Aja, Asia, just depends on who's saying it.
Yeah, and
it should
that's,
be Asia.
Yeah.
the red stone of Asia, which is a mystical stone that has like a lot of sun power, and it's basically the MacGuffin for the series.
Yes.
If once they get it, they'll assume massive power and take over the world.
They will use it to become the ultimate life forms.
Yes. So, and then that once that's been done, now we're like, okay, now that Jojo is like has a ticking clock, he's like, all right, we got to go train yourself in Hamon in a month. So they go back to Italy, to Venice specifically, and meet up with Lisa.
And this is where Russell will take back over.
Wait a minute, we're skipping you.
I've been giving commentary. Also, I'm host.
Ah.
Sorry,
Okay.
Russell.
Okay, fine. Be like that. So
I'll go after you.
Yeah. Caesar and Joseph go to Lisa because Lisa is Caesar's Hamon teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "You, Joseph, you have natural ability, but you don't train, so you suck. Here, climb this giant pillar of oil."
Yep.
Yes.
Using your hands and nothing but your hands.
Yep.
No feet. Only then will I make you not suck.
Yes. Yeah. She's immediately a very, very harsh and stern teacher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So eventually they do that, and then they're given individual tutors, and they are, let's see, Loggins and Messina.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the danger zone.
Wait, that's the. Oh, I didn't know that one was a reference.
Loggins and Messina were a musical thing.
Oh.
Yep.
I should have known. I don't know why I didn't.
Whatever. I mean, the Red Stone of Asia is based off a song by Steely Dan, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And so while they're training, AC/DC decides, hey, I don't know what I'm going to go there, and I know the stone is here. I'm going to get it, and gets in a fight with Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Joseph and his teacher,
And his teacher, yeah.
who
Yeah.
AC/DC kills.
Which is just, oh.
Yeah.
But
So during the
and
fight,
you learn that AC/DC has weird lava tentacle fingernail things.
and boiling hot
Yes.
blood, which
Hot blood.
Oh, I totally forgot about. Oh my god! And then okay, yeah. So then he fights AC/DC, and then he presumably wins. Like Jojo presumably wins, but then it's revealed that his brain is still in existence, and he like latches onto Jojo.
yes,
Right? Did we skip
Follows
anything?
him.
Did I jump the gun or no?
you kind of skip some of the fight, but
Oh,
we
sorry.
shouldn't go into too much detail, just so there's stuff for people to, watch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Okay.
Look,
yeah,
I'll
so
say
he-
this. Plot summarizing JoJo is not a problem because the magic of JoJo isn't actually watching or reading it because the sheer ridiculousness makes it worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah. So basically,
But
AC/DC's
Alyssa,
brain now.
Alyssa, this is still Russell's.
Oh, I'm fine. No, let's collab. I'm good.
Okay,
Okay. Sorry. It's just sorry. I'm
Yeah,
that's fine.
you were kind of taking.
His brain kind of latches on to Joseph, and he kind of follows him in, and then climbs inside and takes control of Susie Q, who is Lisa's attendant.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to remember how that ended. It was, God, I forgot actually.
think-
Remind me.
Well, she lived, but
Obviously,
Oh yeah.
obviously
Say that
she lived because she becomes Joseph's love interest,
well, yeah.
just randomly.
Yeah. Look at that chemistry. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really remember exactly how that happens either, but AC/DC is killed and Susie Q is saved. Whoops. Sorry, I dropped
He and
I dropped
Caesar
the thing.
combine Haman or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
All right. So
And then they go to Switzerland.
yeah,
So during this entire thing, because she worried that the stone would be stolen or attacked, she had sent the
Mhm.
stone off somewhere. So it's in San Moritz in Switzerland at the moment.
Yeah.
So they went there to get it, and meanwhile, while they got there, they were headed off by some Nazis. Ooh,
right,
thematic.
bro.
Yep.
And while they're doing this, they're attacked by cars, who I honestly wasn't expecting to attack anyone, because it's cars, but he was, and they're fended off by who else but the man who exploded, Stroheim.
Yeah.
That's
now in
right.
his final form, cyborg Nazi Guile.
Yeah, seriously, that one came so far out of left field for me. I was like, wait, what?
He didn't
Yeah,
explode. He's bad at
Oh,
exploding.
God.
Give him a break.
Yeah, I was just sitting there like, all right, I guess this guy's back now.
Cyborg in the 30s. I mean, on one hand, it's JoJo. On the other hand, there's just only so much disbelief you can suspend.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
But that's
not
okay.
only-
He has a machine gun in his chest.
This
It's
is
all
true.
good.
He has 20 cal
not
abs.
only are the Nazis in this universe Raiders of the Lost Ark Nazis, but they're also cyborg Nazis too.
No, only Stroheim is a cyborg.
Or
just
only
some-
Stroheim's a mecha Nazi, but like they exist.
Superior German engineering.
Obviously.
German technology is the best in the
Best in the
world!
Oh my god! I can't believe that's Stroheim's catchphrase. Every time he said that, I was like rolling my eyes. Oh my god.
I think
I'll
be honest, I prefer, even though I watched the dub, I've seen the sub, and I prefer sub Stroheim. Just because of that
fun.
tongue roll he does, that I can't even
Yeah.
I can't even do it the way he does it. Just the
Mm.
way he says like "you utter fools" or something. It's just
Yeah, it was that. Oh god, it's so good. But as they go on, the Germans want the red stone for themselves for their own personal
nefarious purposes.
Germany reasons.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn this over to you for a second. I'm having a brain fart.
Sure. We were talking about Von Stromheim comes back and he's now a cyborg, right? That was
Yes,
where we left
this-
off? Okay, so yeah, basically he try. I think they try to fight Cars, but Cars reveals that he has that
that
knife
bone
has the
blade,
glowing
yeah.
thing. And
It's like
glows
he
from
has
death.
basically off of his wrist, part of his forearm curves out like a curved blade pops out with like chainsaw teeth that move or vibrate so fast they emanate light.
Yes.
It's like each of the Pillar Men has their own mode or form or something.
Magical gimmick power.
Like AC/DC's was fire. Wamu's was wind, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, he's Windy Boy.
And then Cars is light.
Is Cuddy Boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like an organic lightsaber in his arm if you think about it.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got two of them.
Oh yeah, dual wield.
Yeah, and
Edgy.
I'm trying to remember exactly how that goes down.
Cars escapes. There's a fight.
Yes.
Caesar links they like fall down a ravine, and Caesar links a bunch of icicles together to form a rope.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And then we get Caesarino. That line.
Yeah.
Nice, very nice, Caesar-chan.
Caesar-chan.
Which in the dub became Caesarino.
Yeah.
And then by that point it's daylight, so Cars retreats.
Yes.
And they find the place and try to figure out a mode of attack.
And Caesar basically just Leroy Jenkins his way in.
They have a fight because they don't really know much about each other.
Yeah.
And Caesar decides, no, I'm going to kill him right now. So, and then you go into the big Wham versus Caesar fight, which is great.
Yep.
And it's where you finally learn how bubbles can be threatening.
Yes.
By turning them into flying saucers of death.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, but unfortunately, Wamu is too strong for Caesar.
And Caesar becomes pasta sauce.
Yep. And he leaves behind a bubble with his scarf and a ring.
The Wamu's nose ring, which contained the cure for the poison rings.
Yep. And
which is the second one he needed. We also forgot that AC/DC's ring was taken by Joseph.
Yeah, and used. So.
Yes. And
after that, we get the infamous. I'm gonna apologize for my voice here. The Caesar.
Yes.
Oh God, that was horrible.
Can I just say that I just love how there's a freaking cross on the floor.
I know the stone that kills him is cross-shaped. The thing that falls from the ceiling is
implying that
subtle.
Caesar died for our sins. Like is that
freaking subtle, Araki? Subtle.
Yep.
You know he's not subtle in any.
That was I know that was sarcasm.
I know. That man. I feel like that man's entire goal in life is to obliterate subtlety.
It's about as subtle as a heart attack on a boat. No, it was a train wreck on a boat. My bad.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah.
Train wreck on a boat.
Yeah, it's
heart attack
a pretty ridiculous moment.
Yeah.
But it is.
Well, no, it's not ridiculous. I would say it's more over the top than ridiculous.
Yeah. It is pretty over the. It is very over the top. But okay, so after that, Lisa, does Speedwagon join up with them?
Not till the very end.
Yeah, no, he's.
So, okay, so is it just Lisa, or is there someone else?
No, it's Lisa, and Jojo.
Okay.
At the moment, yeah.
They're exploring the abandoned hotel that they were in.
That they went off.
Yep. So yeah, so they start investigating the mansion, following Wamu's blood trail.
Yes.
And then I'm trying to remember exactly where they end up.
They end up in a kind of a makeshift throne room for Cars.
No, oh yeah.
With a bunch of vampires on the ceiling.
Yes.
Which I have to admit was kind of an intimidating moment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because when you think about it, that's like hundreds of dudes, arguably, arguably 100 Dios, just not as smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, we all know Dio was a genius and knew everything he was doing. But
Well, also Dio had anyway, nothing. Never mind.
what, a man-headed cat? Yes.
That too.
Yeah, so and then like Lisa basically makes a bargain with Cars and says, we'll do a one-on-one fight, me against you and Jojo against Wamu, and then he agrees.
Yes.
And then and then it transitions to the chariot race.
Which is a really great scene.
Yes.
To a coliseum that is somehow not horribly far away.
And in Switzerland.
And
All those Swiss,
not overrun with tourists.
You know
all those Swiss coliseums you're hearing about all the time.
Oh,
Don't you remember
yes.
the historical gladiatorial Swiss combat that you ever hear about?
Oh yeah,
That's where
totally.
they train their armies.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah, so basically they have a fight, a chariot fight. And the sledgehammer's involved, and a pillar is also involved.
Wamu wields a freaking pillar, man.
Which is funny, because he's a pillar, man.
I just said that. I said he wields a freaking pillar, man.
I didn't even... That
He
probably
is.
was better than my joke.
My weapon is myself and also myself.
Yes.
I am my own weapon.
So as they go around this very complicated it's NASCAR with weapons but chariots.
Yeah, it's like NASCAR 3000 BC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every time they go around the track, a weapon pops up.
Yes.
Wham, of course, doesn't need them. Joseph is like, I'm gonna grab the giant heavy hammer and swing it at you.
Because,
Yeah.
makes sense. Totally.
No, it does.
So that now remind me how that I know how it ends, but I don't remember exactly like what he did. Something to him that like his Wamu's arms came off. My memory is a little fuzzy.
I'm trying to remember.
Didn't he,
Hang on a
like-
sec.
Didn't he, like, use the reins of, like, the chariot or something?
Oh,
And
yeah,
kill them
he-
with Hamon, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, something like that.
And then they keep going and what was it?
Yeah, and then like oh yeah, I remember one like plucks his eyes out and like uses like flame to see where.
No, he uses his horn.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does something with it like tracks the movement of the wind or something.
Yes.
Legit.
Yeah.
No, it is. But they're pillar men. They can do what they want, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So basically, they fight, and I don't remember. Do you guys remember exactly how, like, Joseph throws him in?
I think basically it was just the Hamon. Eventually, his head comes off. I don't remember how.
Yeah.
And then we do actually get a moment between the two of them,
Yes.
which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh no, it was Joseph wrapped Caesar's headband in oil, and then threw it in to the wind after trying to make a firebomb. So it went in and exploded. Wham.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Which you want to talk about Joseph's inventiveness on the fly? Jeez, my God.
Yeah. So after that, Wamu actually some of the other vampires are about to come kill Joseph for beating Wamu, and Wamu actually tells them off
Yeah.
because he really respected him.
It was great. Hey, he's a warrior through and through.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep. And then then we cut to, and then it goes to Lisa and Cars' fight, if I remember correctly. pretty
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, during the race, at a point when it looked like Joseph was going to lose, Cars offers Lisa some poison to kill herself with. Not
Yeah.
because it's just at any sort of like mean or spite, but out of like just would you say respect or just
I respect your skills. Would you like to die without pain? Or
yeah,
like that?
something along those lines. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then in the fight between Cars and Lisa, she seems to beat him rather quickly. Yeah. Only we find out that was a vampire that Cars had disguised as himself. Now, yes. I want to mention something. This is not my original take. This is something I learned from another JoJo YouTuber, Caleb IA. His analysis of this. Throughout the whole part, Joseph has been using a lot of tricks and stuff against the Pillarmen, like in order to win. So this time, Cars acknowledges that and uses that skill to hit for him, kinda. And instead of Joseph being like, "Oh, you used my own thing against me," he like just berates him for like cheating or something, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
like, Cars,
let's never pretend that Joseph is a perfect character and
no
example of high morals.
But it's like any respect, because I think Cars had some budding respect for Joseph, but it like went all out the window at that point.
Yes.
And that's So I just wanted to briefly go over that, because that was an interesting. I had never when reading it. And stuff, I had never considered that until I saw from Caleb, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So, by doing that, tricking her, he comes up from behind and stabs her.
Yes.
And as she's falling, Joseph runs to the rescue, grabs her, and is now hanging with her on one end and him on another.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much at Cars' mercy, except for one small trap that he set, pulling Cars off the edge. And then it's Nazis to the rescue.
Oh my god.
Those heroic Nazis.
Wait. That doesn't sound...
The Nazis were there. They were waiting for Cars to be weak.
No, I was just when someone said heroic Nazis, I was like, wait. That doesn't mesh for some reason. Can't put my finger on it.
I know it doesn't. I agree. But remember, Stroheim is
yeah. Okay. Yes, it's just that I hear those two words, especially in the modern scene right now, and I'm just like,
the Nazis who have at the moment a similar goal with Joseph to kill Cars.
Yes.
Come to the rescue.
There we go.
But not for expressive Nazi reasons, but for I really need this guy to die reasons.
But for survival of humanity reasons.
Yes. Oh man.
Yeah, let's go with that, yeah. So long story short, Cars gets to stone.
Yep.
And but he gets it right as they're shining the UV lights on him. And he puts the stone in a special mask and puts it on. And we get some dubstep, some trippy LSD scene. Seriously, that's some epic dubstep. And then we have Ultimate Lifeform Cars. Arguably the most broken thing in JoJo.
Yeah, I love Ultimate Lifeform Cars.
I do too.
Huh?
I do too, yeah.
Yeah, the man who can become killer squirrels.
Yes!
Yes.
That's one of the first things he does with this new power that is never really fully defined as to what it can and cannot do. But basically he detached his hand and it turned into a squirrel, which then killed another squirrel.
Which was neat.
Yeah, interesting, to be sure.
He can basically either transform parts of his body or his body entirely into any living being he wishes and is immortal.
Yeah, and is no longer affected by the sun.
Yeah, which is the important part.
Because the sun has now risen. And
Yep.
And this now leads into a ridiculous plane chase.
Wherein...
Where Joseph is being attacked by a giant octopus on a plane because cars.
Cars shot
Yeah.
his feathers. Oh, because he turns his arms into like wings, so he's kind of like a harpy man now.
Yes.
And he shoots some of the feathers into the plane, which the feathers then become octopuses and piranhas, and it's a whole thing. Joseph crashes the plane into a volcano. So now you have Cars and Jojo fighting on a volcano.
This was plane crash number 2.
Yes, because the first one was. Oh yeah, the first one was in his childhood. Also, before I meant to bring this part up earlier. We do get a look into Cars' history, the history of the Pillarmen.
Yes.
So I apologize for like interjecting this here, but I have to talk about that. Is that there used to be this Pillarmen used to be a species that lived, I guess, underground.
Yeah.
And when Cars was born, he was like exceptionally smart. Wow, good job, Chris. And he was creating this way for them to basically become more powerful. So he created the stone mask, which he then used on himself and another AC/DC.
Yep.
And that's how they got their wild powers, but that's also where they got their bloodlust.
Yes.
And the other Pillarmen were just like, rather than being like, oh, okay, this let us not die in the sun, okay. They just sort of like freaked out and like tried to kill him. So basically AC/DC and Cars had to kill off their entire species, except for 2 babies.
Right.
Good old Wham and Santana.
Yep. So that's... Yep. Anyway, I apologize for that. Let's get back to the fight.
Oh, no worries.
During this fight, Sonochi no Sadame is playing. Sorry.
Yep.
Which is epic as hell.
Context is the theme song of the Phantom Blood series.
Yes.
Yes.
Meanwhile, while this is happening, we don't realize until later, Stroheim had jumped on board and is now fighting Cars right on the cusp of a volcano with Joseph. And they managed to throw Cars somehow into the magma, but that doesn't work.
He turns into crab armor or something. Because
crabs... He Mazen Kaisers his way out of this situation.
As everyone knows, crabs, you throw a crab in a volcano, it's perfectly fine.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Delicious.
And yes,
he's also, again, pretty much immortal.
Yeah, and I would just want to real quick mention, I know he is doing other stuff with the crab armor, but come on.
Right.
Yeah, it's silly.
Yeah, so basically, how the fight ends... Russ, do you want to say it, or should I? Because it's interesting.
Oh, you want to talk about Deus Ex Machina Redstone nonsense? Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially, Cars can now use Haman for reasons.
Yes.
And he goes to kill Joseph with Haman, and Joseph, without really thinking, holds up the red stone, and it amplifies all of that energy, causing the volcano to explode, blasting the 2 of them up into the air on a very large piece of rock.
And at some point during the fight, Joseph also lost his right hand.
Yeah.
Was it left or right? It was his left hand. Left hand.
It is his... It's his right.
I think it's his left.
No, I think you're right. I think it is his left. You're right. I can't remember. He uses it and distracts it with Cars with it. And during this distraction, he gets knocked up higher. And he gets knocked up so high by the ridiculous explosion of this volcano that he's launched out of Earth's atmosphere into space, where he freezes into a chunk and then just floats forever.
Eventually, Cars decided to just stop thinking.
Yeah, so it's pointless.
Yeah, I read somewhere that Rocky was just kind of realized that he'd written himself into a corner there and had to figure out how to get rid of Cars. I think that was...
He got a prosthetic hand.
Yeah. Rocky got a prosthetic hand?
Oh, no.
I know.
No, Rocky got donuts.
Yeah. Everyone back home, though, thinks Joseph is dead. So Joseph, basically, he crashes his own funeral. His own burial, actually.
My question, though, is what body did they think they had?
Oh, they were probably just... It was probably an empty casket kind of deal.
I mean,
okay,
that's what you usually
when
do
you
when
think
there's...
someone died by a volcano, you don't really go looking. An exploded volcano, you don't really go looking for a body necessarily.
That's
'cause
fair.
Yeah,
That's
you're
fair.
probably not gonna
I
find
forgot
it.
a volcano was involved.
Yeah, empty. Yeah, so it was probably an empty casket there.
Yeah.
But that was really a funny scene.
Yeah, yeah. He was just so cash about it too. He was like, "Oh, I knew there was a funeral, but I love how he knew there was a funeral, but he didn't realize it was for him."
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, who died?
Oh, and while he was gone, he got married to Susie Q. So there's a thing.
Yep.
And
And then it goes to like sort of a "where are they now" kind of montage.
yeah,
right?
and
Where they talk about all the things that happened to all the characters.
like Speedwagon dying a bachelor,
Yep.
which I've always interpreted as him basically being like, it was kind of like a jokingly like, Jonathan, you can't be with Jonathan, there's no point kind of deal.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That man was no tycoon. He had no time for fun.
yeah.
Smokey Brown became the first black mayor of his hometown, which was really cool. And
Yeah.
I think later in the series he's a senator.
Really?
That's great.
I think like during part 3 times he's like a big time senator.
Is that ever meant? I don't remember that being mentioned, but all right.
I feel like I remember it.
I know there is that
I
one
don't know.
senator in Cairo, but that's not him.
No.
That's Charles Martinet,
Stroheim died at the Battle of Stalingrad.
which I call bull on. I have my own little headcanon, but
I mean, you can only have so many bullets, and UV rays don't work against Russian soldiers. So,
but he's a freaking
no matter how
cyborg.
pale they are.
Still, he's a cyborg. Anyway, and then we get sort of a preview-ish for part 3,
Yes.
where he says, "Was it? I'll never forgive the Japanese," in referring
Because, like,
For taking away my daughter, but damn, I love my Walkman.
and apparently a certain college-age girl, but that's a couple episodes from now.
Mhm.
We'll find out about that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just get like this snippet of Jotaro, and then credits. And that's Battle Tendency.
Yeah.
Spoilers, by the way. We should probably put a spoiler. I think from now on we should just have, if you're watching this, you expect spoilers.
Yeah.
Listening. Rather.
No, that's
probably. Probs.
But again,
Yep.
JoJo is fun enough for the ride that even knowing what's going to happen is still ridiculous.
Yeah, like
Yeah, there's a lot of like weird things that happen in this anime.
you could almost.
Because you also have the superior color and character design and animation from
And the-
David Production.
and the music.
Yeah.
All the music, the
Fantastic music.
voice acting, where JoJo is just an excuse to go insane with your voice acting.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, if there's one thing that I will unequivocally say that I love about this anime is that the voice acting is really on point.
It-
like I watched
yeah.
the sub for clarification, and so I can't speak to the dub's voice acting, but the subs, like Jesus, all the actors were like yelling and really emoting, and
Yes.
yeah, I think they had. I can tell that in the studio they probably had a blast doing the lines, especially whoever did Von Strongheim. I'm sure he
Oh,
had
yeah.
a blast.
Yeah. Sure.
Oh,
Like,
God,
just,
yeah,
just,
no,
just being crazy, like, that's fine.
It's a ton of fun. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Part 1 has always, to me, been kind of a little stuffy.
Mm.
And it's just,
Mhm.
that's just it taking off its overdone, just giant ceremonial coat and saying, I'm wearing a t-shirt now, let's have fun.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Definitely the kind of anime to watch if you don't want to, like, think too much. I think if you give this anime, like, a lot of thought, you're gonna be lost in it.
Nah.
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, there is stuff in there. A lot of thought is more so for stand parts, I'll argue.
Yeah,
But-
like with like characterization and picking the stand's name and its design, especially.
Yeah, and, I mean, I don't know. Like, I will say, okay, because, like, yeah, but, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I don't either.
I guess, like, if we're talking, I guess right now we're gonna talk more about, like, our overall thoughts, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, because, like, for me, I definitely thought I definitely liked a lot of. I think what I like the most about JoJo is sort of the design. I think the aesthetic of this show is really great. Because it's so unique in comparison to like other anime that's out. I think a lot of that's because it's an older anime. You know, it was made in the 80s. So
Yeah.
it's going to have a different aesthetic than something that comes out like, see now. But I think that definitely plays to the anime's advantage because, I tend to like anime that has a very distinct style. Like if the anime, a lot of points in my opinion get like voted off for me if the anime has a really bland design or I feel like the character looks really generic. But I don't think that's the case with this anime.
Oh no, no one makes or draws anything quite like Araki.
No.
Yeah. So I think the fact that the designs have a lot of character is really great. Trying to think of what else I wanted to say. I thought that oh boy. Sorry, I'm having some brain farts. Why don't someone else talk while I'm thinking?
I will say part 2 is, if not my favorite, it's definitely at least my second favorite out of all of JoJo. It's I just enjoy it. Like each part is great for what it is, but I don't know, just something about part 2, man. Like it takes the best parts from part 1 and amplifies them while also doing its own thing.
And you also get a preview of Araki's penchant for travel hopping adventures,
which we definitely see in the next part.
Yeah,
3 is just him.
God. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Oh no, fine. It's fine. 3 is just him saying, "I'm going on a business trip. Don't worry, I'll write something about this," and then just inserting himself somewhere and having a villain kill him.
So what you're saying is that part 3 actually happened to Araki? Everything?
I think he actually did go on that trip,
including the orangutan.
I don't think the orangutan actually happened. No.
That's what you're supposed to say, especially the orangutan.
No. I think it was a chipmunk, and he just overdid it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I also gotta say, just for me personally, I'm always really interested in seeing anime that take place in the U.S. Like, even though this is 1930s New York, it was still interesting to see New York represented in like an anime.
Yeah.
Especially since I live like in the New York metro area, so I'm always really like whenever they're like we're in New York now, I'm like, ooh boy, let's see how this Japanese person represents the U.S.
You'll probably like part 6 then. It takes place entirely in Florida.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, it does. That's right.
So so to me, I always really like seeing.
Oh, you like part 7 too, because that's also in America.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not like, it's not like it's like a huge. I don't know. I just find it really interesting when people who are non-Americans. I always like seeing non-Americans take on an American city. It's kind of like just like how you feel like.
Yes.
Whenever any movie or something takes place in where you live, it's always really interesting. Interesting perspective change.
Indeed.
Or something.
All right, Russell. Russell, have you gone yet?
I haven't.
Okay.
My thoughts on part 2, you say?
Yes.
Part 2 is just fun. It's him acknowledging that Jonathan Joestar was kind of a little uptight and boring, and saying, I want my protagonist to be fun, nonsensical, just make a complete mockery of everything I've already done, and just I want to push everything to where it should be, which is ridiculous fighting, which is fun as heck, absurd dialogue, characters that you can care about in a way, just and throwing in as many musical references as I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I love part 2. Part 2 is, like you said, it may be my first or second favorite part. It's just pure fun.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the Nazis running around.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Just gotta look past that a little bit. Just,
Yeah. If I'll be honest, if there's anything like I have two onions with this show. So like two big critiques, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it. That's what we're here for.
Obviously, my biggest problem is the Nazis.
Yeah.
That's just, boy, to be clear, that's a problem I think that a lot of anime has. You know, I've watched some anime out there that, because, you know, Japan was, you know, an ally with the Germans during World War II. As a result, there's a lot of anime that sort of represents Nazis in a sympathetic way, and it's just, it's
I will see that.
Kind of hard.
I will see that point, but raise you Hellsing.
I have not seen Hellsing.
Okay, that needs to go on your list.
Oh yes, Hellsing. One man took a bad trip to England and said, "I want this place burned down by Nazi vampires. I hate my trip so much."
Oh my god.
That is that is what I hear happened to Kota Hirano. And that is why I hear he wrote that.
Oh my god.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously haven't watched like a lot of anime that takes place in World War II. I think the only other notable one that I've watched is Axis Powers Italia, and I mean that anime, the Axis Powers are the main cast, so like you know, there's that problem too.
Okay,
but
then.
I honestly think in some ways that this anime is a little worse on the Nazi sympathy account than even Axis Powers Italia, if only because like the Nazi aspect is a little bit more text. And like I totally can and I feel like it's a very your mileage may vary kind of situation. Like some people can probably look the other way. For me, I found it kind of distracting, and it was a little hard for me to like kind of take moments seriously or like really feel for the heroic moments, because I'm like, but they're Nazis. That was like going on in my head the whole time. And I totally understand if someone's watching this and they're like, and they really can't look the other way on it.
Oh yeah,
I totally
yeah.
see why someone might not want to sit through an anime where the Nazis have heroic moments, and I totally understand that.
And I will say this, probably the reason why Araki even had them in there is because 95% of this part takes place in Europe in
during that time,
Axis territory during World War II. And you need some kind of secondary force, you could say. And in that time and place, what was really the only power in that area? So, I mean, plus the Nazis' penchant for going after the supernatural art. That wasn't just from Indiana Jones. That was a real thing.
Yeah.
So from a historical perspective, it makes sense. Still, I don't really, you know.
I mean, for me, I've never seen Araki as someone who ever actually apologizes for his characters or tries to justify them. He's like, yeah, this person's a bad person. Like, I mean, I don't think he's ever really in a position saying, yeah, Nazis are good. I think he's just like, it's just a character.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to imply that Araki is pushing any sort of agenda.
Oh no, I know.
Oh no. No, God, no.
No.
You know,
I mean, you know what I mean.
Really, you know, Nazis are a very loaded subject,
especially in our
West,
in our current day and age.
Yeah, like it's kind of a subject that needs to be handled well, you know, for a lot of people. So I don't know. For me, at least, I would say that it kind of detracts, at least for me. But like, you know, I'm not here to say that like I think that Araki is, you know.
Oh no, he's not
pro-Nazi.
No, God, no.
It's just that it's a period piece.
Yes.
Yeah. And okay, and then the other onion I had was that I don't really know how I feel about some of the narration in this thing. Like, I don't know. I feel like for me, something like a TV show, like I don't really know if the narration was really necessary. I mean, I feel like anime kind of sometimes has the habit of like transposing like narration within the comics. You know, if there's any narration in the comics or any like internal monologue from the characters, they sort of just like slap that on one to one. But I don't know. I feel like some of the narration felt a little unnecessary. Like I feel like, well, I could probably get what they're saying just from looking at the visuals, you know. I mean, it didn't like break my enjoyment completely, but I don't know. I felt like a little unnecessary, and I don't know. The only time the narration was like helpful or fine was when was just like, you know, historical backdrop stuff, you know, like talking about the Nazis or talking about the Pillarmen's backstory and whatever. But like during the action sequences when there was like anime, like when there was narration, part of me was just like, I don't know if this is necessary. Kind of slows the action down. But you know, that's just me.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are my two big onions.
All right. Well, I mean, is there really much else to talk about with this? We've gone over the plot, our thoughts, our opinions on the main Jojo.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's all.
Yeah, it pretty much covers it. So, again, next week we'll be starting. Hopefully, it'll be up next week too. We can get it recorded. We'll be doing part 3, Stardust Crusaders.
Yep.
Hopefully, we can get that in one episode. I'm not sure if we can, just because it's let's put it this way. The manga for part 2 took up 4 books. The manga for part 3 is currently 8 books and not done yet.
Oh man!
And being in the Jojonium releases, the hardcover.
Oh, the hardcover releases. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, wait a minute.
No.
Like, wait a minute. We're on part 8 now.
No. Sorry. Oh God, part 8. That'll be Anime Overdrive episode what? 402.
Maybe
when that gets done and animated. Anyway, but like hopefully we'll do that. We might with that one. We might just hit the good points, so to speak, like a real general overview. But with that, I guess we will do our little sign off. Social media. You can find me on Twitter. I recently changed the account name for my alt. It is now just open it up real quick here. At Kome Mom. That's KOUMEMOM. That's where you can find me on Twitter. And then my main, which is where I am more often. I cannot say follow me unless you're 18 or older, just due to like and retweet material. But that is at Shingeki.ass. Again, that's my main. I'm also on YouTube, Sonozawa Productions. And yeah, I think that's it. Russell?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Altered Ego with 2 underscores. You can also find me at my other podcast, Rocketo Punchy. Also on Twitter. And wherever you find your fine podcasts, except for Spotify at the moment, dang it. I am free for anything and anything.
All right.
Double anything.
All right, Alyssa?
So you can find me on Twitter at The Rational Dove, all one word. And if you want to hear more of my voice talking about pop culture phenomena, you can also hop on over to Soundjack 426 on YouTube. There's a Soundjack Rambles podcast, and I'm a frequent guest. So, like, I'd say 9 times out of 10 I'm on it. So, if you want to hear me talk about non-anime things, that would be a place to be. Also, I am currently also working on another project that I'll probably be promoting here soon. I won't say much about it right now, but just, you know, keep your eyes peeled, I suppose.
All right. You can also find, follow the Nerdy Geek Talk Twitter. That's at Nerdy Geek Talk. And you can find this podcast on any of the usual podcasting sites, as far as I know. And if you're not subscribed to the Nerdy Geek Talk YouTube channel, I would say probably subscribe there too. And I think we've covered all of our bases. So until next time, bye, Anara.
All right, bye.
Bye.